राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्ता स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यादेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंदा। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयम् उदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। All right. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, Hare Krishna everyone. So we'll continue our discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 1 to Chapter 2. And we were at verse number, as of my memory, it was
I think another
10, right? Yeah, we did up till 10. So we'll start from 11. So now it is speaking about the super soul. So yesterday we had a nice discussion about super soul. So actually the super soul is the form of Janardana, as the Srila Prabhupada's purport says. So let's continue from verse number. So we heard in that second chapter, the chapter is Lord in the Heart. So we heard that how Virat Rupa, in the previous chapter, we heard about Virat Rupa. So even by meditating on Virat Rupa, even Lord Brahma could regain his lost memory, and forgetfulness was cleared by meditating on the Virat Rupa. So even the Virat Rupa, which is in the material world, the form of the Lord, even that is so powerful that it can give us the remembrance again. So that is what, and also we heard about, that in the Vedas, how there are deluding, bewildering paths. So one should not hover in the heavenly planets because of the flowery language of the Vedas. And in those, we cannot, there will be temporary happiness, but not like tangible, great happiness. And then we heard about, like, we should not waste our time and energy in investing in the temporary, but one should endeavor to actually focus on the super soul. That's what it is saying, and how the nature has given us everything, so we should not depend on anything artificial. That is what it was described. And then we heard about yesterday that rendering devotional service to the super soul, which is in the heart of living entity. And and how, who will neglect that is all those materialists. So then we heard from verse number 8, it was describing about the form of super soul. So it is 8 inches, it has 4 hands, and in the purport, Srila Prabhupada described about many different forms and names. He described about that. And beautiful description of the super soul is given in verse number 9 and 10. So so his beauty of his dress up and his eyes, lotus eyes, and how he's decorated with gold and jewels, and how he sits in the heart of the yogis, mystics. Okay, so let's start from verse number 11. Someone would like to read. Let me share my screen.
Yes, I can read, Mataji.
Okay, go ahead.
Verse 11. विभूषितं मेघ लयांगुलीयकेर महाधनेरु धनेरुपुरकनादिभिः स्त्रिग्धाम धामलाकुञ्चित नीलकुन्तले विरोचमानान् हास्पेस्मलम्. Translation and Prabhupada. He is well decorated with an ornamental about his wrist and ring, studded with valuable jewels on his finger, his laglets, his bangles, his all hair curling with the blessing tint, and his beautiful smiling face are all very pleasing. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the most beautiful person amongst of all other. And Srila Sukhadev Goswami describes every part of his transcendental beauty one after another in order to reach the impersonalist, that the personalist of Godhead is not an imagination by the devotee for facility of worship, but is the Supreme Person in fact and figure. The personal feature of the absolute truth is but his radiation. The sun rays are but radiation from the sun. Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna. Yeah.
Yeah. Sukadev Goswami is describing Lord's beauty. Yes, Mataji. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, he's the most beautiful person amongst all others. This morning I was hearing Srila Prabhupada, and Srila Prabhupada is writing in order to teach the impersonalist that the personality of Godhead is not an imagination by the devotee for facility of worship, but is the Supreme Person in fact and figure. So basically the impersonal feature of the absolute truth is but his radiation, as the sun rays are but radiations from the sun. So Srila Prabhupada in that lecture was describing that if we all, like he describes in the Upanishad in the preface, that how his creation has a form, then how is it that he is supreme and he doesn't have a form, right? And Bhagavatam actually convinces us when we see that, when we hear the description of his beauty, his form, then it convinces us that it's not just something without a form, but he is a person who is Satchidanand Vigraha. Yeah, okay, let's move on. Verse number 12, someone would like to read?
Yeah, Hare Krishna Mataji, can I read?
So the purport is large, so we will pause and we will switch, so you can read one paragraph,
Okay.
like 1.5, like this one, and I will tell you when to stop. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, Mataji. Adina Leela Hasite Krishana Ulasad Bhanga Samushchita Bhuri Anugraham Iksheta Chintamayam Enam Ishwaram Yavan Mano Dharanya Vatishthate. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The Lord's magnanimous pastimes and the glowing glancing of his smiling face are all indications of his extensive benedictions. One must therefore concentrate on his transcendental form of the Lord as long as the mind can be fixed on him by meditation. Purport. In Bhagavad Gita 12.5, it is said that the impersonalist undergoes a series of difficult programs on account of his impersonal meditation. But the devotee, due to the Lord's personal service, progresses very easily. Impersonal meditation is therefore a source of suffering for the impersonalist. Here, the devotee has an advantage over the impersonalist philosopher. The impersonalist is doubtful about the personal feature of the Lord, and therefore
he always tries to meditate upon something which is not objective. For this reason, there is an authentic statement in the Bhagavatam regarding the positive concentration of the mind on the factual form of the Lord. The process of meditation recommended herein is Bhakti Yoga, or the process of devotional service. After one is liberated from the material conditions, Jnana Yoga is the process of liberation from the material conditions. After one is liberated from the conditions of material existence, that is, when one is Nivrata, as previously stated herein, or one when one is freed from all material necessities, one become qualified to discharge the process of Bhakti Yoga. Therefore, Bhakti Yoga includes Gyan Yoga. In other words, the process of pure devotional service simultaneously serves the purpose of Gyan Yoga because liberation from material conditions is automatically achieved by gradual development of pure devotional service. These effects of Bhakti Yoga are called Anartha Nivriti. Things which are artificially acquired gradually disappear along with the progress of Bhakti Yoga. Meditation on the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead, the first processional step, must show its effect by anartha nivriti. The grossest type of anartha which binds the conditioned soul in material existence is sex desire, and the sex desire gradually develops in the union of the male and female. When the male and female are united, the sex desire is further aggravated by the accumulation of buildings, children, friends,
Haribo? Yeah,
yes,
yeah. I think it was my internet or yours. I don't know. Yeah, go ahead.
and the false sense of egoism or the sense of myself and mine becomes prominent, and the sex desire expands to various political, social, altruistic, philanthropic, and many other unwanted engagements, resembling the foam of the sea waves, which very prominent at one time and the next moment vanishes as quickly as a cloud in the sky. The conditioned soul is encircled by such products as well as products of sex desire, and therefore Bhakti Yoga leads to gradual evaporation of the sex desire, which is summarized in three headings, namely profit, adoration, and distinction. All conditioned souls are mad after these different forms of sex desire, and one shall see for himself how much he has been freed from such material hankering based primarily on the sex desire. As a person feels his hunger satisfied after eating each morsel of the foodstuff, he must similarly be able to see the degree to which he has been freed from sex desire. The
Okay,
sex
hold on, because this purport is a big one. So someone else would like to continue.
I can continue. Mataji.
Yeah, go ahead.
The sex desire is diminished along with its various forms by the process of Bhakti Yoga. Because Bhakti Yoga automatically, by the grace of the Lord, effectively results in knowledge and renunciation, even if the devotee is not materially very well educated. Knowledge means knowing things as they are, and if by del- del- deliberation it is found that there are things which are at all unnecessary, naturally, the person who has acquired knowledge leaves aside such unwanted things. When the conditioned soul finds by culture of knowledge that material necessities are unwanted things, he becomes detached from such unwanted things. This stage of knowledge is called vairagya or detachment from unwanted things. We have previously discussed that the transcendentalist is required to be self sufficient and should not beg from the rich, blind persons to fulfill the bare necessities of life. Sukdev Goswami has suggested some alternatives for the bare necessities of life, namely the problem of eating, sleeping, and shelter, but he has not suggested any alternative for sex satisfaction. One who has the sex desire still with him should not at all try to accept the renounced order of life. For one who has not attained to this stage, there is no question of a renounced order of life. So, by the gradual process of devotional service, under the guidance of a proper spiritual master and following the principles of the Bhagavatam, one must be able at least to control the gross sex desire before one accepts the renounced order of life factually. You want me to continue, Mataji, or
Yeah,
somebody else?
yeah. If you want to, otherwise someone else.
Yeah, I can continue.
Yeah.
So purification means getting free gradually from sex desire, and this is attained by meditation on the person of the Lord as described herein. Beginning from the feet, one should not try to go upwards artificially without seeing for himself how much he has been released from the sex desire. The smiling face of the Lord is the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, and there are many upstarts who at once try to begin with the 10th canto, and especially with the 5 chapters which delineate the Ras Leela of the Lord. This is certainly improper. By such improper study or hearing of Bhagavatam, the material opportunities have played havoc by indulgence in sex life in the name of Bhagavatam. This vilification of Bhagavatam is rendered by the acts of the so-called devotees. One should be free from all kinds of sex desire before he tries to make a show of recital of Bhagavatam. Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur clearly defines the import of purification as cessation from sex indulgence. He says, Yatha yatha descha satyati visaya lampatayam tajyati tatha tatha dhrayeda iti chitta suddhi tratmayen tat tatra mayenaiva dhyana tatra mayam uktam. And as one gets free from the intoxication of sex indulgence by purification of intelligence, one should step forward for the next meditation, or in other words, the progress of meditation on the different limbs of the transcendental body of the Lord should be enhanced in proportion to the progress of purification of the heart. The conclusion is that those who are still entrapped by sex indulgence should never progress to meditation above the feet of the Lord. Therefore, recital of Srimad Bhagavatam by them should be restricted to the first and second cantos of the great literature. One must complete the purificatory process by assimilating the contents of the first 9 cantos. The one should be admitted into the realm of the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam.
Very
Hari
good. So Neha and Barsana Mataji, if you would like to say something.
Yeah, the main essence of this purpose, Mataji, is like in the beginning of the purport, Srila Prabhupada explained about the impersonalists. They meditate on the impersonal form of the Lord and they are doubtful. But the Bhagavatam says that the devotees, they meditate on the personal form of Krishna. And yes, the main thing is we have to get rid of these material desires and mainly the sex desires and including all these material things, wealth, woman, everything. So we have to do the bhakti yoga, that what Srimad Bhagavatam said. And also Srila Sukadeva Goswami said, unless we don't take the renounced order of life, if we are not get rid of these sex desires. And the last paragraph said, so we should, that's why we have to go from the meditate on the lotus feet of Krishna. We have to start from the meditate on the lotus feet of Krishna and then progressively as much we as progress in the devotional service, we can go. So that's why we have to read the first and second canto and then we go progress more.
Yeah. Thank you, Mataji. Neha, you want to say something?
Yeah, Mataji. So it's mentioned about how one should concentrate for meditation purposes. One should concentrate and focus on Lord's transcendental form, and the beginners who are still haven't had anartha nirvati should just focus on the lotus feet of Krishna. Also, it's like about the people who have sex desires. That is the grossest form of the anartha, and those who still have not overcome that, they should never try to become sannyasi. And in the beginning, like in the purport, about the bhakti yoga, how the devotional services brings the bhakti yoga and the mukti together, because we are in service of Krishna, and the jnanis are just working very hard, but they just don't get anywhere. And so, and also like the beginners should not start with the 10th canto, which is like the lotus face and the smile of Shri Krishna, and should always start with the canto first and second, where they can understand and get some anartha nivritti. Otherwise, they think that Shri Krishna's leelas and pastimes of Radha, and then they misintrude the words, and like they use it in their own favor, and they just don't get out of the gross things.
Mm.
Yes, Mati.
So basically, so just few highlights that see here, magnanimous pastime and glowing glancing of his smiling face. So actually, that is the mercy of the Lord. The smiling face and the glowing glance is, and his pastimes, they are actually specially mercy of the Lord. That if we really focus on those, hearing his pastimes and on his beautiful face, starting with the lotus feet, if we do that meditation, then actually our material lust, which is the grossest form, is the sex desire, the gross level, but there is a subtle level sex desire also, which is here Srila Prabhupada wrote in the purport in the second paragraph. Where is it? It was somewhere here. I have it marked in my book. So it says, the conditioned soul is encircled by such products as well as the products of sex desire, and therefore Bhakti Yoga leads to gradual evaporation of the sex desire, which is summarized in three headings, namely profit, adoration, and distinction. So this is Puja Labh Pratishtha, that is subtle kind of sex desire. So meaning it's not, when we refer in the scriptures, when sex is referred, it's not only gross level, but it is the subtle level also. Gross, we leave it in the beginning itself, but the subtle level, which is the desire for puja labh pratishtha, meaning profit, adoration, and distinction, and that goes when we are practicing devotional services. But it's the subtle level is very difficult to go. So our check for our progress in devotional services, that we can check that if that is reducing, our puja la pratishtha desire is reducing or not, then we are making advancement. Otherwise, we are doing something wrong. So, and also very important point here, that Srila Prabhupada is quoting this 2.5 verse where Krishna is describing that impersonal path is very, very difficult, because that is dependent on one's own ability and strength. But in case of devotional service, it's Krishna's mercy, and the heart and mind is attracted easily to a beautiful form of the Lord. So that is what Srila Prabhupada is describing here, and which is very important point. And also another important point, Srila Prabhupada is quoting in the purport from one of the verses in first canto, second chapter, that when one is engaged in devotional service of the Lord, then what happens is the attachment and knowledge automatically comes. The knowledge, jnana, actually he is saying that when we have knowledge, then we can actually easily get rid of this material desires. But when one is engaged in devotional service of the Lord, then it automatically evaporates. So that is important. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janeti Asu Vairagyam Jnanam Chayat Ahetukam. Right? And also another point, Sukadeva Goswami, he actually in the previous verses, he described about the physical needs which can be fulfilled instead of acquiring and like working hard for those material needs like sleeping, eating. For that, nature has already provided everything, so we don't have to endeavor too much. But He did not. He has one who has a sex desire still with him shouldn't at all try to accept the renounced order of life. So he has not suggested any alternative for that desire, but only easiest way for getting relieved and free from that sex desire, subtle and gross, is engaging in the devotional service of the Lord. Impersonalism will not help, and that too also under the guidance of a spiritual master. So by the gradual process of devotional service under the guidance of a proper spiritual master and following the principles of Bhagavatam, one must be able at least to control the gross sex desire before one accepts the renounced order of life. Yeah. So basically the purification means to getting free from the subtle and gross kind of desires, and that can be attained by meditation on the form of the Lord, beginning with his lotus feet. And the first and second canto of the Bhagavatam, they are the lotus feet of the Lord. So we should not directly jump on the 10th canto. So here Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur, he says that purification actually means the cessation of sex indulgence. All right, so should we continue to the next verse? So again, the glorious pastimes of the Lord and his smiling face and his glowing glance. So those, if we think of those, then our material lust, the desire for sex, meaning subtle and gross, will be evaporated. So yeah, so should we move on to the next verse?
I can read.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Ekasho angani dhiyan no bhavaye padadi yavadhasitam kadabhritaha jitam sthanam apohadharyet param shuddhayeti dhiryatha yatha. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The process of meditation should begin from the lotus feet of the Lord and progress to his smiling face. The meditation should be concentrated upon the lotus feet, then the calves, then the thighs, and in this way higher and higher. The more the mind becomes fixed upon the different parts of the limbs, one after another, the more the intelligence becomes purified. Purport. The process of meditation recommended in the Srimad Bhagavatam is not to fix one's attention on something impersonal or void. The meditation should concentrate on the person of the Supreme Godhead, either in his Virat Rupa, the gigantic universal form, or in his such Idananda Vigraha as described in the scriptures. There are authorized descriptions of Vishnu forms, and there are authorized representations of deities in the temples. Thus one can practice meditating upon the deity, concentrating his mind on the lotus feet of the Lord, and gradually rising higher and higher up to his smiling face. According to the Bhagavad school, the Lord's rasa dancing is the smiling face of the Lord. Since it is recommended in this word that one should gradually progress from the lotus feet up to the smiling face, we shall not jump at once to understand the Lord's pastimes in the rasa dance. It is better to practice concentrating our attention by offering flowers and a tulsi to the lotus feet of the Lord. In this way, we gradually become purified by the archana process. We dress the Lord, bathe him, etc. All those transcendental activities help us purify existence. When we reach the higher standard of purification, if we see the smiling face of the Lord or hear the rasa dance pastimes of the Lord, then we can relish his activities. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, therefore, the rasa dance pastimes are delineated in the 10th canto, chapters 29 through 34. The more one concentrates on the transcendental form of the Lord, either on the lotus feet, the calves, the thighs, or the chest, the more one becomes purified. And in this verse, it is clearly stated, the more the intelligence becomes purified, which means the more one becomes detached from sense gratification. Our intelligence in the present conditioned state of life is impure due to being engaged in sense gratification. The result of meditation on the transcendental form of the Lord will be manifested by one's detachment from sense gratification. Therefore, the ultimate purpose of meditation is purification of one's intelligence. Those who are too engrossed in sense gratification cannot be allowed to participate in Archana or to touch the transcendental form of the Radha, Krishna, or Vishnu deities. For them, it is better to meditate upon the gigantic Virat Rupa of the Lord, as recommended in the next verse. The impersonalists and the voidists are recommended to meditate upon the universal form of the Lord, whereas the devotees are recommended to meditate on the deity worship in the temple. Because the impersonalists and the voidists are not scientifically sufficiently purified in their spiritual activities, Archana is not meant for them. Hari Bol.
You want to say something?
Yeah, Mataji. So here again, described here that when we meditate, we, as you mentioned earlier, we have to start meditation from the lotus feet of the Lord and progress in a higher way, where we are looking at his calves and the thighs, and then going higher and higher, the chest and the smiling face. So unless we are qualified, that if we are too much engrossed in sense gratification, we should be only looking at his feet, and these things tell us, these descriptions in the other verses, the Lord's form, what colored clothes he's wearing, what he has in his four hands, and his smiling face. This all tells us is that Krishna is not impersonal. He has a form. He has a beautiful form, and the devotees love to meditate on the personal form of the Lord and not on the impersonal form of the Lord. Mm-hmm. And the other thing is, as we meditate from the lower to the higher limbs of the Lord, our intelligence grows, which means our detachment will also grow. So, and those people who are too much in sense gratification, they should not do this kind of meditation. Impersonalists should meditate on the Virat Rupa, and the voidist, and also the voidist also can meditate on the universal form of the Lord, where as devotees can meditate on the deity worship, on the deity form of the Lord. And the devotees can do Archana, but the impersonalists are not recommended. For them, Archana is not recommended.
Yeah. So it's an important point. Like, actually, we hear all the time that because our intelligence is impure right now, and because we know from third chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the hierarchy of gross matter, the senses are higher than the gross matter, right? And the mind is higher than the senses, and the intelligence is higher than the mind, and then higher than intelligence is the soul, and higher than that is the super soul. That is the hierarchy. But because of the attachment for sense enjoyment, what has happened, our intelligence has become impure. It is not able to discriminate what is good for me and what is not good for me. And the scriptures, they help us in sharpening that intelligence to spiritual intelligence, meaning purifying the intelligence. And here in this verse and purport, Srila Prabhupada is describing that meditating on different limbs of the body of Krishna, it actually purifies our intelligence. So here, one second, where it is, yeah, here in this paragraph, the more the intelligence, okay, here, the more one concentrates on the transcendental form of the Lord, either on the lotus feet, the calves, the thighs, or the chest, the more one becomes purified. In this verse, it is clearly stated, the more the intelligence becomes purified, which means the more one becomes detached from sense gratification. So this check for the purification of intelligence is that we are getting detached from sense gratification. Our intelligence in the present condition state of life is impure due to being engaged in sense gratification. The result of meditation on the transcendental form of the Lord will be manifested by one's detachment from sense gratification. So actually the ultimate purpose of meditation is purification of one's intelligence. And also in the previous verse we heard his glorious pastimes, his smiling face, and his glowing glance. So when we hear Krishna Katha, then also is our intelligence purifying, because we are understanding what is what and what is the relationship of, what is my relationship with Krishna, who am I? I'm not this body but the spirit soul, but I'm acting like as if I'm body. But when we are hearing from scriptures, then we understand that jnana, that knowledge comes about our who we are and what is our relationship with the Lord and how should I act in that relationship, and what is the interrelationship of living entity with each other and with Prakriti and with Purusha, Krishna, the Ishvara, right? So then that intelligence starts purifying and getting sharpened, and then our desire for sense gratification evaporates and reduces, right? So very, very important verse, the last two verses, very, very important to meditate on the form of the Lord. And by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, we have the beautiful deity form of the Lord in so many temples all over the world, no matter where we go. So even the technology gives us the ability to access those from our phones sitting at home, right? So yeah, very powerful. Okay, so should we move on to the next verse?
I can read, Mataji.
Yes, Prabhuji, thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. Yavan jayate paravare asmi visvesvare trastari bhakti yoga tavat tavat stavijaya purusasya rupam shiravasvane prayata mareta. Translation purport by His Divine Srila Prabhupada, going to Srila Prabhupada. Translation. Unless the gross materialist develops a sense of loving service unto the Supreme Lord, the seer of both the transcendental and the material world, he should remember or meditate upon the universal form of the Lord at the end of his prescribed duties. Purport. The Supreme Lord is the seer of all worlds, both material and transcendental. In other words, the Supreme Lord is the ultimate beneficiary and enjoyer of all worlds, as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. The spiritual world is a manifestation of his internal potency, and the material world is a manifestation of his external potency. The living entity are also his marginal potency, and by their own choice, they can live either in the transcendental or material world. The material world is not a fit place for living entities because they are spiritually one with the Lord. And in the material world, the living entities become conditioned by the laws of the material world. The Lord wants all living entities who are his part and parcels to live with him in the transcendental world, and for enlightening the conditioned souls in the material world, all the Vedas and the living scriptures are there expressly to recall the conditioned soul back home, back to Godhead. Unfortunately, the conditioned living entities, along with although suffering continually the three folds of material miseries of conditioned life, are not very serious about going back to Godhead. It is due to the misguided way of living, complicated by sins and virtues. Some of them who are virtuous by deeds begin to re-establish a lost relation with the Lord, but they are unable to understand the personal feature of the Lord. The real purpose of life is to make contact with the Lord and be engaged in his service. That is the natural position of living entities. But those who are impersonalists and are unable to render any loving service to the Lord have been advised to meditate upon his impersonal feature, the Virat Rupa, or universal form. So some way or other, one must try to re-establish one's forgotten relation with the Lord if one at all desires to gain real happiness in life and to reclaim his natural, unfettered condition. For the less intelligent beginners, meditation on the impersonal feature of the Virat Rupa or universal form of the Lord will gradually qualify one to rise to the personal contact. One is advised herewith to meditate upon the Virat Rupa specified in the previous chapters in order to understand how the different planets, seas, mountains, rivers, birds, beasts, human beings, demigods, and all that we can conceive of, all we can conceive are but different parts and names of the Lord Virat form. This sort of thinking is also a type of meditation on the absolute. And as soon as such meditation begins, one develops one's godly qualities and the whole world appears to be happy and peaceful residence for all the people of the world. Without such meditation on God, either personal or impersonal, all good qualities of the human beings become covered with misconception regarding his constitutional position. And without such advanced knowledge, the whole world becomes a hell for the human being. Very well.
Yeah, you want to say something, Prabhu?
Yes, Mataji. So the important thing is in this verse is somehow or the other, one should get connected with the Supreme Lord. It's preferable, and there is one can get connected to the Lord on his personal form. And if that's not possible, then the people like the impersonalists and all that others should meditate on the Virat Rupa, but it's very essential to get connected with the Supreme Lord one way or the other. Otherwise, one's life is completely wasted. And here is said that one should remember again, like you did what you described before, when you meditate, begin with the lotus feet and moving upwards. And for the impersonalist, meditate on the Virat. Yes, Mati, that's all right.
Yeah, so basically this verse number 13 and 14. So 13, it was describing about the Paramatma meditation for advanced yogi, and this one is describing about Virat Rupa meditation for attached yogi. So that is what the verse is describing. If one, unless a gross materialist, develops a sense of loving service. So if it has not yet developed, then one should do meditation on the universal form of the Lord, Virat Rupa. Right? And very nice, Srila Prabhupada in the purport, he is describing that how Krishna, we know that Bhagavad Gita verse, what is that? 529, Bhokta Yagna Tapsam, Sarvalok Maheshwaram, Suhradam Sarvabhutanam, Gyatva Shantim Rachati. So that he is the seer of both transcendental and material. And Srila Prabhupada is also mentioning that it's not a fit place, this material world is not a fit place for the living entity. And he wants all of us to come back to him, right? So if one is at a gross material level, if they cannot render devotional service to the Lord, then what should they do? They should meditate on the universal form of the Lord, Virat Rupa. And also one line, very nice, Srila Prabhupada is writing in the purport, the real purpose of life is to make contact with the Lord and be engaged in his service. So that is the purpose in human form of life here. The real purpose of life is to make contact with the Lord and engage in his service. Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Yeah.
Pardon me, मैं so I'm little like, so Virat Rupa, like the deity form is very like so nicely decorated and very pleasant to see, and we like love to look. But then Virat Rupa is like very like
Yeah.
It's like very like hard to then focus. Like I don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like it says the neophytes or the beginners should do that.
No,
So
no. The beginners who don't have any faith in the deity form of the Lord. So that is what we heard in the first chapter also, right? Those who don't believe in the deity of the Lord, they think that it is just wood or stone or metal, whatever material it is made of, right?
it's like more of to make them realize that you
There
are,
is a form,
it
means
is like so big form, like there is nothing bigger than him. So they understand. Yeah.
for them to have some conception of the Lord form, some conception of the form of the Lord, that he has a form. It's not that he is form. So to begin with, when one does not have any understanding or any faith on the deity form of the Lord and the personal form of the Lord, then it is for those.
And also, like it says, like you have to meditate upon starting with the lotus feet and then the glance
Yeah,
and smile.
yeah.
Right, Mataji? So, like, so with the lotus feet, like Mataji, like, do you take like the back, the all the signs in the feet of the
No, either way, both actually, just the feet. Like when we see Krishna, how his legs are tribhang
in the
lalitam,
Tribhanga
that
form,
form.
like the
Yeah,
tilted
that how his feet are, like how they are so nicely decorated, and yeah, put the marks, the auspicious marks on his feet. Yes.
and then the eyes, the glass,
Yeah, later. Yeah,
the
yeah.
smile.
So gradually go up. Like Queen Kunti's prayers, Namo Pankajana Bhaya, she didn't start from his face, and she did not start from his lotus feet because she was the ant. It would have made Krishna very embarrassed if she would say Namo Pankajangare in the beginning, right? Namo Pankajana Namo Pankajmalini, Namo Pankaj Nitraya, Namaste Pankajangare. So that's why she says it in the end. So she didn't start from the face. So who are we to start from the face?
So, Mataji, for like we are chanting the 16 round for the,
Mhm.
I am not able to just focus like just the feet, like keep looking at the
No,
feet.
it's not like that. And especially the chanting, actually speaking, we should be focusing on the mantra. I mean, the form will be revealed automatically. We read yesterday also that, right? Name, form, qualities, and pastime.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's not like such a hard and fast rule, but in general, unless our sense enjoyment, gross and subtle, is done, we should be meditating on the lotus feet of the Lord. Meaning we want to serve the lotus feet of the Lord, not like in the Madhuri Rasa go to the face automatically, right? So it's like the servant of the servant of the servant. That is like, where will we go? Lotus feet only, right? And who are at the lotus feet of the Lord? The devotees.
Yeah.
So it's in that sense.
Okay. Okay, Mataji. Thank you.
Okay, dear devotees, I have to end early today because I have some other service to do. So thank you all very much for your association. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Anant Koti
Jai.
Sindhu
Kripa
Bhai.
Sindhuveccha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo
Hari
Namaha.
Hari Bol. Thank you all very much.